Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good Saturday night. I'm gonna try to be. Uh-oh. I've got like a feedback loop happening here. The hell is happening here? Okay, hopefully that's a little better now. As it turns out, I shouldn't have the volume turned up on my computer while I'm trying to do this. This is all a learning experience. As you can tell, I don't have the best webcam. This is just the built-in thing to my laptop. I'm just in my living room. There's no professional sound equipment, and yet the sound here is pretty decent. So I continue to do it this way. At some point, I'll probably figure out how to actually hook up the better microphone that I have, and get the real rich, true experience. But in the meantime, it's just me. I'm not doing this with any kind of financial backing or anything. This is purely a pleasure pursuit, a hobby, what have you. So for anybody who's just seeing this for the first time, my name is Chris or Christopher. I use my full name, Christopher Charles Robinson, because there's, an abundance of Christopher Robinsons and Chris Robinsons in the world already. So I figure I might as well use my full name. And I like my middle name. Charles was my dad's name. I like have positive associations with Charles, to say the least. Baudelaire, Bukowski. The painting is my friend in Southern California, my oldest friend, Chris Justice. He's an artist. He's based in Southern California. We grew up together in Southern California. He's still there. You can look up his work online. You can find him out there. But this is a painting he did for my wife and I shortly after we got married. It's been hanging in all of the living rooms of all of the places we've lived in the course of our marriage. So I'm very glad to have it. Also, fun story, in the process of him painting that, he was nice enough to allow me to attach contact mics to the back of the canvas. And while he was painting it, I was recording the sound and manipulating the sound in real time. This was many years ago. Yeah, I got a noise release out of it anyway. So I got a painting and a noise release. So it's very cool. I'll show you the full scope of it. It's pretty big. It takes up a lot of space, but it's very cool. I can't tell you how much time I've spent looking at it over the years. You may also notice, longtime people who've been watching this, I generally do this in my room, which is where the big book wall is. I've been doing it out here in the living room lately, though, because A, the lighting is better, I can see better, and B, the sound seems to be better as well. So that's why I'm doing it here. So anyway, I'm Chris or Christopher. Welcome. This is just live reads. I did these on Instagram for a long time, but the sound quality really started sucking and it got super glitchy. So I moved it over here to YouTube. I've had much better luck with YouTube so far. The reason for the season tonight is I'd like to use this as an opportunity to promote the work of an author I've been a fan of for many years, but who has just issued his first short story collection. That is Nathan Dragon. The book is The Champ Is Here. It's on Cash for Gold Books. Y'all need to, if you like strange short fictions, very short fictions in most cases, this is your wheelhouse. A little bit about Nathan Dragon. These are Noon Annual. Y'all already know, or if you've watched even more than one of these, you know how I feel about Noon Annual. I look forward to it every year. I've been following, he's published elsewhere too, but I've mainly been following him in Noon Annual. It's just, it was just, one of those authors I always looked forward to the new or the latest Noon Annual because he didn't have like, a full length collection yet. There's many authors in here, or not many, but there's certainly other authors in here I'm waiting for a short story collection from, like a proper one. Lucy Elvin comes to mind. Caleb Blatchley. I hope I said that right. That was from memory. I don't know. I love these every year, but Nathan's work always really struck me, and I've long been looking forward to this collection. The Champ is Here, because every year I get Noon Annual. There's usually at least one new story from him, and I love it. And another year goes by, and then there's another story or two, and I love it. And then he's just one of those guys I keep like every time, like so often. I can't tell you how often I've thought to myself, like, damn, when is Nathan Dragon gonna drop a collection? Well, he finally did. It came out back in December. Y'all need to get this. It is tiny, but it is mighty. Some really fantastic stuff in here. I was so glad to see so many of my favorites from the past Noon Annuals in there, and many that were new to me too, because as it turns out, he publishes kind of widely, and I hadn't even scratched the surface with his work. So yeah, it's been really fun. I got this when it came out back in December. I've already made my way to it, or through it, 3 times. It was 2 times last week. I read it again this week in preparation for this. It's just great stuff. Anything I can really say about it is gonna not do it any particular justice. So I guess I'll just read it. I want to thank Nathan for allowing me to do these stories. I don't always have the opportunity to reach out to the author and get, official permission to do this. And I basically just hope I don't get cease and desisted, because I'm not making any money off this. This is just something I like to do. But I reached out to Nathan on Instagram, and he was very gracious and replied, and was excited about this. So thanks, Nathan. Seriously. I'm going to take a sip of tea, and then I'm going to get started. All right, The Champ is Here. And it's going to be good. It has several epigraphs, but the one most after my own heart was taken from The Recognitions by William Gaddis, which is one of my favorite books of all time. I know Jeff Bursey is a fan of it too. So the epigraph is, or epigram, whatever it is, I don't know what it is. The things that were real to other people weren't real to me, but the things that were real to me, they still are. Fucking Wyatt. Love it. All right, y'all. This is the first one in the book. It's called The Champ is Here. This is the title story. He'd never seen one of those before, one of the classic ones like in the cartoons. In real life, though, it was pretty big and ugly in a prehistoric way, and scaly, a classic woodpecker. He saw it one day when he pulled into the driveway, caught a quick glimpse of some red and black bobbing its way up the tree, then out of sight into branches and glare. There was a pile of bark and wood chips at the foot of the big old scraggly pine, and there were holes in a haphazard, almost pattern going up the trunk. Man, he thought, a classic woodpecker. He wanted to tell someone right away and badly, show them the piles underneath the tree he parked in front of every day. Man, he thought, like the cartoon, never seen one like that before, never seen a classic woodpecker in real life, not once in his life. He'd seen a different kind once, stiff dead on its back in the weeds for a few days, legs sticking up out of the bent grass. Didn't look real anymore. Half taxidermic traces, familiarity just shy of being able to tell how it reminded him, like the lotion smell that reminded him of music instead of the fruit it says it smelled like. He felt like he learned something when he saw this real-life classic woodpecker, like something out of a nature program, a shot of him pulling into his driveway and seeing the woodpecker through the windshield. There it was, right there in plain view. He'd see it as soon as he turned onto his street because he started to look for it, and his house was the first house on his street, and the tree was right by the driveway. And when he'd see it, he'd slow the car down, drive softly, and stop to watch it. Best seat in the world. He took pride that this woodpecker, a pileated woodpecker, he'd done his research, chose the pine tree in front of his house and not a tree in front of anyone else's house in town. This gave him something to come home to at the end of the day, look forward to, the woodpecker and the feeling. Man, this was a future he could settle into, a thing to be proud of. When he stopped seeing it, and when it stopped coming, he started looking out the back and side windows. He'd had something special there. It had even lifted his spirits. And even now, sometimes, when he thinks about the classic woodpecker, like how he hadn't heard it make a sound, it amazes him, how he'd never heard it pecking or whatever else it did. But he did see it a last time, its profile and the way it moved, out the kitchen window, flying off somewhere, and he thought about boxers, how boxers could really take lessons from the classic pileated woodpecker, with the way its head bobbed, how the bird seemed swifter than a featherweight, jabbing, moving, bob and weave, stick and move. Nobody fights like that anymore, he'd said aloud, thinking about it and shaking his head. When he stopped seeing it, at first he worried. Then he wondered where it went, and he pictured himself fighting some homeowner somewhere in town, the homeowner that had the pine tree on their property that the woodpecker went to now. Jab and move, baby. Stick and move. He'd knock on the door and spit and say, "The champ is here." He'd flutter his feet in complex footwork and throw a haymaker the moment his opponent looks down. There had to have been something he could have done to have made it last or to make it come back and stay. Maybe he should have parked up the street so not to bother it. Anything he could have done so that it would have stayed and not have gone to somebody else's pine tree. Most things were like that, how it always happened before, and would happen again. Something to react to, and most things. That was the title story, The Champ is Here, by Nathan Dragon. I love that. The woodpecker figures heavily throughout a bunch of these stories, which I like because I like a lot. I like birds in general, but woodpeckers are really amazing, and I don't get to see them often enough. All right, this next one is called Bud. This is what I mean, so I'm clear. I wipe the mirror, then I pass the razor over the stubble while I'm looking in the mirror, taking away the shaving cream from my face in little curved rectangles. Then I watch my skin underneath the last pull get pinkly irritated and the mirror fog up again. I get into the shower and turn the water on in that order. It's the touchiest faucet, and it really has gotten my stomach scalding, and I feel jealous of something. I put on some jeans and a navy t-shirt with a breast pocket and thin black cotton socks and my tan tennis shoes, and I am cheering myself on the whole way. Keep going, bud, and I'll help you, bud. I finished dressing by dressing like a pumpkin. I put on my orange sweater and forest green winter cap so that I will be nice and warm since my hair is wet, even though my skin is raw. The last thought I have before I finish dressing is this: I need something to defend, a world record or something. Again, that one was called Bud. All right, this next one is called Daily. These are in order so far. I'll let you know if I deviate at all. There are a lot of common threads through these stories, so it is advisable, I think, to read it to primarily, like, at least on your first read, to like stick to the order that they're given in. But I'm going to get a little bit more scattered out the further I go, because I realize I can't sit here and read the entire collection. So I'm just going to be trying to like single out like favorites. It's hard though, man. Like there's a lot of bangers in here, as the kids would say. This next one, Daily. He walks home daily just thinking. Most of the time, when he's thinking, he thinks of things like all the different names he might name a dog. Jacques would be fitting, or maybe Sweet William, like a racehorse, like a flower. He's always wanted a dog, something to give a meaningful name to. Sometimes he goes out just to walk home and he wears layers. Layers are important. Something that zips over something, that buttons over something, crew necks tucked in, hood and hat, depending. Then he's cushioned in a situation that mainly has something to do with his biliary stomach. He had to explain this to many people, but as soon as they ask why, he feels it welling up. That was Daily. Okay, this next one. This one makes me laugh. A lot of these make me laugh. But this one's called Display. There's just some real choice lines in here. I love it. Display. When she gets home, he'll have, well, let me not fuck it up. When she gets home, he'll have already done it. It'll all be set up. A week, God damn it. I'm going to stumble over the simple stuff. This is what I do. Okay. Once again, Display by Nathan Dragon. When she gets home, he'll have already done it. It'll all be set up. At least for the week. A fucking tableau. He'll have something going on the stove, too, for tonight. He was quite proud of what he'd accomplished so far today, and the day is not over. He talks to himself while pushing the cart about what it's like to be a proud hunter, or better, more like a predator, what a predator would do with its prey and lay it out like an offering to a mate. to be the type of provider he is. Just look it. He brings it home from the store, arranges it out all on the counter and kitchen table, all nice and very careful. Look at this, he thinks, a well-stocked pile of spoils. He sets up the display of what he managed to get, what he managed to bring back to the den. A hunt's bounty. All the gatherings and trappings caught in the chrome basket of the cart. He'd even go so far as to think of himself and refers to himself as the apex pred. The way he moved around in the store, the way he procured a profusion of sustenance. To think the most natural way, impulse and instinct, the most biologically evolved for efficiency. But he doesn't know what that could mean to him, beyond some primordial tickling in his ears and hope for salvation from starvation for just one more day, and maybe even getting a nice tugging reward. He'll get another list tomorrow morning when she leaves for work, and the amount to cover it. Another chance. It's what he can do for her, however well and however simple it looks. He doesn't think of it as less. He thinks it's dangerous out there. He hopes he can make the display tonight look appetizing, or at least okay, even seductive. He didn't want to push it too much. Subtlety is sexy. That's why he went to the grocery store by himself in the mornings. He could spend the rest of the day laying it out, adjusting everything to make it look right, because as he rearranges it all, he'd eat from the pile, a snack here and there, just a couple of bites, pieces of fruit and lunch, some bread and some cheese. He has to try to make sure it doesn't look like he's eaten anything from it, like he was patient and waited for her to get home from work and didn't cheat and he had control. Like as long as he wraps everything back up as it was, lock, baggy, lock tracks lined up right with the deli sticker, bread bag twisted back up and tied up the way a machine would do it. As long as the work he put into it is acknowledged. That one's real funny. The next one is particularly funny to me, and I remember reading it for the first time, and my wife Erica was nearby, and I'm laughing, and she's looking at me. I'm like, this is like the most me story I've read in a long time, and I by that I mean this is this is something I've almost certainly done. I know I have done with a variety of beverages over the years, but this is a very short one. It's called juice. This morning, he pours some juice, walks to the table, sneezes, tries to stifle it, and spills some juice. And again, a sneeze starts to come on. He tries to stifle it, spills, sneezes, tries to stifle it, spills. Now the cup's empty. Shit. Juice is kind of expensive. And this always happens. Oh my God. Story of my fucking life. I'm notorious. I am the clumsiest. Yeah. Relatable. Juice is highly relatable. Gotta say it. Okay, this next one is interesting because, I mean, it's an interesting story anyway. I really like this story a lot. but it goes under a different title here than it originally went under in Noon. I believe in Noon it was called, I forget what it was called actually, but I don't think it was called this. I might be completely delusional about this. Oh no, it is. In Noon it's called Love or the Attraction of the Sexes. But here, it's called It'd Be Nice to Have a Sharp Looking Cooler. You'll see why. You'll see why. I really like the new title, and I still really like the story. It's a great one. It'd be nice to have a sharp looking cooler. There was 1 week during this time when every day on my way home, young blonde women with really long hair were driving extremely fast up the windy road in the opposite traffic in medium-sized white cars, non-stop, one and then another, nearly floating over the yellow line. 2 times were very close calls. I actually said, yikes, to myself when it was happening. They were all obviously different people driving different cars, but the similarity and speed of everything was startling. When I told my wife about this experience, she shook her head. I started shaking my head along with her. I did want to ask her if she thought they were all together somehow, and what kind of unit it could be. I mean, they were flying, but I didn't say anything else, and I am glad. Then we went out to get some coffees, snacks, gallons of water, wipes, ice, a new cooler, as a little treat during this situation. Why not? It's nice to have a sharp-looking cooler. I picked the one I thought I'd look best with at a cookout. I wonder if my wife loves me enough. Oh, man. We're hitting a real funny string here. There's just some, okay. Yeah, all right. Here, let's do some more woodpecker stuff. This one's just called Woodpecker. Excuse me. Damn. Woodpecker. The woodpecker used to be such a good thing, something to look forward to, truly. You could only get so mad over the damage, he thought. It was a woodpecker, after all. Maybe would have even been good for the neighborhood, for whoever's peace of mind. Could have described it as rustic, because of the nature. There were plenty of things and sounds happening all the time that carried up the streets and alleys. It had been good to hear something from out of place. Only bothersome if the pecking was loud, close, and constant, by proximity. Not like ants or roaches crawling over all your shit, materializing out of nothing, on you, in everything needed. Long after the fact, he found out it belonged to the flicker family. It was a northern flicker. The woodpecking was the best sound he got to hear regularly, a non-people sound. Not any longer, though, thanks to something people did do, and, come on, a jackhammer some street over. He saw them put the construction spray paint down, and the woodpecker, dead in the sidewalk grass, on his way to the train. It looked shiny, somehow impatient, the way a pair of empty shoes by the door looks like it holds a posture. Whoever did it should have done it to the big shot and all the big wigs instead, the ones who got paid to decide the things. the only pure sound in the neighborhood muted by someone taking their rage out on the wrong thing. He blamed the ones who kicked the nature out to begin with in the very, very first days. Who could he trust now? The woodpecker was probably poisoned, pretty easy to get at any hardware store from pest control. He felt like someone in the wrong place, headed somewhere worse. The city was no good, too flat, and now no woodpeckers. The morning after he saw it dead, he swore he could still hear it pecking down the street. He put his shoes on and ran to check a few times. The trees were always empty. And then there it was, hardly ruffled by the wind or sniffed out by a dog. A dead woodpecker, a northern flicker, left in the grass. Then one day, gone. He noticed some sort of sense of control in the neighborhood started taking hold. A note on his neighbor's door that said, "Enough with the peanuts." Something must have happened at some point. What would he watch from his window now? That was Woodpecker. All right, let's do. Okay, so these were both in noon. All right, let's do it. This is called Personally. I think I'm just going to keep reading these until I fill up an hour. So, I hope y'all are enjoying this. I really, really, really love this stuff. I'll tell you what it reminds me of a little bit, because I've spent a long, 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 long time sitting and reading Richard Brautigan out loud. All of it, really, but like the most especially the stories in Revenge of the Lawn, that collection he did. There's a cadence about some of this that kind of reminds me of Richard Brautigan, particularly when you read it aloud. It's great. It's great. I don't know. That's a high compliment. I know Brautigan is pretty underrated, and but he seems to be getting, getting his due, thankfully. And I hope this gets its due too, because this is wonderful. I don't know if Nathan's read Brautigan or even likes Brautigan, and I hope I'm not doing a disservice by comparing him to Brautigan, but I really like Brautigan, so there you go. It's just something it reminds me of, sort of. But it's not so much the content; it's just kind of just like the way the sentences all run into each other, and the way it all sounds when you read it aloud. It's got like this kind of rhythmic, like poetic quality to it, and it's got a sense of humor, but it's also got a lot of like I don't know, some real like deep melancholy in there too. I really like it. Anyway, this is called Personally. Personally, of course, all of these are personal issues. Rotten fruit refusing to fall, or some echoing threat like a baseball thrown at him, but it pings off a post by that one angry kid or rough cousin growing up. You're going to miss out on your entire life. Take a look around. You're living like birds dancing and a man describing the scene. But how about all the floors he's ever lied down on? He's thankful for them, like all the ceilings he's eased off under, windows he's looked out from, porches sat out on, and outside resting in the grass supine, looking up. Recently, but not recently enough, he was sick at home watching crime shows. He thanks God for those days. A big brown owl plus snow a week later. The dog hesitating at the door in the cold, deer jumping in the brush. Remember a sky of scratches like missing crystals from a chandelier? This is a tourist town all the locals seem to be disappointed by, though they wouldn't ever admit it. The short and long of life, the short and long life of a one-liner. He accidentally crosses a wet paint crosswalk and leaves a trail. Sorry, 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 he thinks. I'm still out of plum. Okay, this next one, this next one is called "I Am a Little World." Sometime just after we moved here, on the tiniest Monday, it seemed like something new was low risk. I started to take my coffee in a new way, with half and half and grade A maple syrup. I wanted to change things up. I think somebody said that maple syrup is brain food. I used to take my coffees strong and plain, but today a golden rain falls in globs like applesauce. And when it's warm and sunny, we all love the ice cream they sell here. I am thinking that I am the god of rising air, low pressure, fresh clouds, cyclical weather systems. I get strength from thinking this. You ever feel like someone who you've seen around a lot but never met is a good friend? Or even someone you fucking hate, like they've been messing with you? I am that one. Let's see. Let's see. God damn, I just want to read all of these. It's fucking annoying. I want to read this one because I'll be thinking about this one forever. I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know the what or why of it, but that's why it's so intriguing to me. And also because I have known Craigs and Gregs, many Craigs and Gregs. This is called Craigs and Gregs. Craigs are blondes, and Gregs, well, no, there's no and there. This is very short, so I'm going to be very, very, very precise and not try to insert any words that aren't there. Come on, brain, let's do this. Craigs and Gregs. Craigs are blondes, Gregs are brunettes. He thought of more, and some felt great. Like standing outside in a heavy fog, wearing a t-shirt, gets damp and heavy, wet and soaked through, sopping. Craigs are sopping, he thought, and Gregs, having something to do with width, also have something to do with a smiley girth. He thinks it's going. Guess what my name is, he asked first chance he got. Just little old me. I don't know why I like that one so much, but I really do. It's so goddamn odd. I really like this one. We're getting into some of my like I really, 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 really like these short ones, these super short ones. I love super short stories. It's my happy place. This one's called Whatever It Is. Everything that is said or that can be said about something, whatever it is, reduces it. That thing that is being referred to, whatever was said about it, and even the relationship between that thing being spoken about or referred to And whatever this thing is related to is reduced when anything is said about any of it. Something is or is like something specific, but not only that, happens or doesn't, is whatever it isn't, skirting around it. It can be like a lot of things, like what it's made of or nothing related to it at all. With that being said, there's probably more to it. For example, the lake smells fresh, like dirt, and the ocean smells like the ocean. Okay, we're going here. Let's go more. More. A life in a small house. I'm gonna drink some more tea. Oh, because I talked about my coffee cup last time. This is one of my oldest coffee cups. I love this cup very much. This is from, oh, what's up, Quentin? What's up, man? Quentin Ferrari in the house. This is, I got this in Zzyzx, California, which is the geographically last place name in the United States. And apparently that's the only reason it was called Zzyzx. I got this at the Desert Studies Center, which is out in the middle of fucking nowhere. The closest town is Baker, and Baker is a very small town. It's like out kind of in Death Valley. My my lovely mother took me out there when I was in high school because I was into photography and I wanted to take pictures of it. But as it turned out, they had a gift shop there, so I got this mug. So this is my oldest mug. I've had this probably since what, 2004, 2005, something like that. No worries, brother. Thank you for being here for any of this, Quentin. It's always a pleasure to have you, man. I think you'd want to. I think you'd really dig this collection, brother. I don't know about Canadian availability, but if you can get your hands on it, you should. If not, holler at me. We'll find a way to get it to you somehow. It's worthy. There's some really, really great little tinies in here, dude. I don't know if you were here for Juice earlier, but that's one of my favorites right there. This one is A Life in a Small House. He wore big special pants in those days. He remembers the delicious French fry store. He had big plans, but now he's thinking, I've gotten nothing done. He is thinking about a mediocre attempt at something maybe interesting. He felt like he was at an angle again, couldn't give the feeling a name, just a handful of words, color bound to an orange hue and slammed. He feels embarrassed. Is he supposed to be embarrassed by this? He wants a way of life, something that originates with him. He should try to keep pinching himself. Oh, wow. He should try to keep pinching himself busy. He should. Fingers at the top of his head pinching for one hair with texture, and when he finds it, he softly pulls. Almost the perfect reverse of slurping a noodle. He'll keep himself sitting down, maybe open a private window. He does have fun holding a grudge. Justice and there were things to keep track of here. Ripley and Stacy Toole, those two. I love almost the perfect reverse of slurping a noodle. Right? He wore big special pants in those days. That's a great opening sentence. No worries, brother. Sorry you have to work tomorrow. Fuck. I have one more day where I don't have to go into work, and then Monday's here, and it's ugh. But in the meantime, we read, and we read, and we read. So much reading. Because what the fuck else am I gonna do? Oh, here's another. Before you leave, Quentin, another good opening line. You don't even have to stay for the whole story, but I love this opening line too. The story is called Licking the Spoon. Their doubts never lined up like an overbite. I love that fucking sentence so much. I'm glad it's the opener, so I can just loop back and elegantly read the rest of it. But that just cracks me up. Love that fucking opener. Licking the spoon. Their doubts never lined up like an overbite, and it was a good thing. They were a buck luckier for it. That's how one of them said it anyway. The other didn't know what it meant. For being inside like they were, of a thing like they were. Outside it sprinkled and puttered. It was leaking through the window mesh and onto the kitchen counter, glinting just right, a little flat up surface, gritting and fizzing in such a way that it all seemed unoutlined. And the air inside had a quality not unlike that of a cloudy daylight, accented by the yellowing woods. It got ridiculous. To them, it felt like a nod, a wink. Retirement dreams, baby, one said. Doesn't matter which. They fell in love and out of sleep, holding hands. Whatever they had wanted this coming evening was going to come, and they'd have to sit with it long enough because there wasn't much of a choice. A decision needed to be made, gently. So, for one, no bother at all. One of them didn't mention something that shouldn't have been mentioned to the other. A thing that can happen sometimes and is usually not too bad, but can be. Ultimately, a thing best left alone that sometimes isn't. Better off not asking what. One of them thinking that other must have said something. But, let whatever's left be. The point being that when something goes right through something else and settles, the thing as it is settles too. When the one left and then returned to the room, each asked, at the same time, the other one to say something beautiful. She asked, "What's that even mean?" She couldn't picture it. Water breaking like teeth. And after, when either one agreed with the other about anything, everything from there on was sweet. Then they'd feel like doing something that night, but something cheap. Dandelion tea sat on the counter brewing in teak light. I love it. Let's see. Where next, Columbus? Let's see. Oh, that one's kind of sweet. I want to read that one. This one's called Nebraska. Well, it was until I closed the book on it. Hey, I opened it straight to the page. Good instincts. Gotta toot my horn when good shit happens. Instead of the usual clumsy eventuality where the book falls closed and I have to spend the next several increments of time seeking out the page I had in the first place. But nevertheless, here we are. Nebraska. He loved her, even though she was always doing something not all the way right, as he put it, and with him never giving her the time enough before he could say, "Know what I mean?" Not all the way right, like nothing wrong, but nothing that made it easier. And she loved him back even though he wasn't ever right himself and tended towards difficulty. Things became, what's the matter? They thought about these things, each to their own respective selves, quiet in a truck stop motel in Nevada. How they loved each other and the sound of each other breathing in a room they'll probably never be in again. No, wait, maybe it wasn't Nevada. He had never been to Nevada, he'll say later on when recalling this to her. It was Nebraska. They were in between. And she'd say, nope, nuh-uh. They'd never been to Nebraska. They held each other tightly on their way, stopped off in the middle for now. Somebody out there knows the place. Getting there. He could picture her in the different angles of light, of where they had been before, and she was imagining the things he used to do, and now he'd do them again one day, if he could just remember himself well enough to keep trying. I really like that one. There's some significant relatability in there. You could make that my epitaph, literally. He wasn't ever right himself and tended towards difficulty. It about sums me up. You can ask my wife. She'll vouch for that one, I'm sure. I like this one a lot too. Dogs are in here quite a bit too. Man, I don't know. There's a lot of my themes in here. A lot of my favorite animals making significant appearances. This one's called "With His Dog by the Fire." I believe this was another one in Noon. I recognized this one. I read this one somewhere. If it wasn't in Noon, I read it somewhere else. But I'm glad it's in here. With his dog by the fire. He needs to participate in the people way of the town life when he enters. He has to drive around Ham Woods because that's part of what he has to do. He has errands, same as everyone else. Eggs, milk, bread, bananas, things to put into other things so they have a place. He sits down at the end of the day with his dog by the fire. But you know what comes embroidered onto the end of the day? Another day. He'll wash it down with a beer. He smells the dust. The extra filtered desert light through the dirty window is pinning the dust down, cooking it in. Light stripes the floor in straight bladed waves with the window open and the wind passing through. He goes to check on the failed aquarium stuck outside to collect rainwater. It is coming back to life, with little dragonfly babies flick pinching and twisting around. They've got a different name here. These things pickling in the muck, some floating in translucent balls like cocktail onions. He'd like to phone that kid he knew from that one city who looks for luck in things all day long. The Clover Kid. At his desk again, writing longhand, he messes up and the W slips roundly into an O. Then back to the fire with his big dog in his lap, so he doesn't have to feel like he went nowhere or got stuck. God, there's just some beautiful imagery in that one. Am I selling y'all on this? I hope I am. I don't know where all you can get it. I ended up having, it was easiest for me to get it through Amazon. I'm not the biggest fan of Amazon, but I will make exceptions if it's an easy way for me to. This was just one of those I wanted as fast as possible, so I did it, and it showed up, and all of that. I really like that one. God, I really like all of these. All right, here we go. This one's called He Cried in His Room Multiple Times. Again, I need to show the cover more. I'm sorry. The Champ is Here by Nathan Dragon. It's on Cash for Gold Books. Y'all need to get it in your lives. If you like this, the whole collection is tremendous. You got to get it. Got to get it. He's one of the more exciting authors of short fiction working right now. And God, it's January. The new Noon comes out, I think, in March or something. It usually comes out around March. I hope it's March this year. I hope there's no delays. I hope he's got more work in there. I know he's got more work in there. I think I saw him post something about that. So yeah, very much looking forward to that. Anyway, this one's called He Cried in His Room Multiple Times. He knows what it means to be hopeful, like the hour you get off work and you're on your way. Oh, butcher the simple shit again. He knows what it means to be hopeful, like the hour you get off work and you're on your walk home. Since he got home, he'd been lying down on the couch drinking coffee. Some dribbled down his chin onto his shirt and down his chin and around his neck, and then it haloed around his head into the pillow. Butter is also all over his yellow shirt, the smell of raw potato on his skin. Earlier, walking home, he leaned down in the grass to flick around and find a four-leaf clover, swore he saw one, but he didn't try to pick it. He was once completely fascinated or infatuated with the things he pulled out of his own body. Last week, as he left work, he threw away a pile of fortune cookies and a sign that said, "Take one." Memo said exercise in morale. Company customized positive fortunes. Once, he did something similar before at home. He flushed it all, and on that night he sat watching a car at the end of the street burn. It was like green, brown, gray, orange, sour blue fog that's lifting, or a mist over a reef that's walloped on a rough day. Maybe a friend from around then had been with him. All it was some sitting on a porch and a car burning. Was all it took. No other detail, like when he bent over to look through the little patch of clover, thanks to the single pink flower that had caught his eye. He wanted a life like that, and he might have had it. Do another one. This one's called Lifelike. We're getting to the point where I got to make hard decisions. I'm sorry if I skip any favorites. I'm sorry if anyone out there is already into this collection and I'm like missing out on favorites. I'm not up against a hard deadline. I'm just going to keep reading. I was going to try to keep this to about an hour, but we'll just go. We'll see how it goes. This one's called Lifelike. He didn't have any opinions, and he said to himself, "God damn, I love the different tones I can take with myself." As he drove home on the back road, he was by himself, no one in the car with him or on the road passing him the other way. He remembered the guy he worked for when he first moved there, the one who had the life-size crucifix in his backyard. Not lifelike. No way. Not with the way it was built. It couldn't support the weight of someone. Like it wasn't built from thick enough planks, like it wasn't built from thick enough cuts or planks of wood or lumber. Life size, but not 100% lifelike. Accurate enough for a display-grade replica, he supposed, but not for use. In the morning, it was easy to see, with blue-gray frost covering up all the golden grass in the valley on the way to get some coffee and the moon still out, a break in the tree line because of the road. He drove by the general store with the great deli counter and the guy who makes the sandwiches and always has something to say. He didn't turn around, but now that he's up the hill, he wished he'd gone in. He sees symbolism in people seeing or seeking symbolism in things, thinking about things he's overheard in line. Dried leaves all over the car floor, everywhere like fish flakes. The way something like a hat became trash as soon as it's left somewhere public. And how things just happened, or are, because they followed what happened before, or whatever just was. Let's see. Ah, there he is. All right. This one's called There He Is. This was in last year's Noon. I know that. This one really stood out to me when I read it. There he is. I tried to fish. I felt like fishing that day. I wanted to go through the motions of it, attach a lure to the end of the line, cast out and reel, cast out, reel in, cast out. About 5 casts in, I'm snagged, real stuck. I didn't have any patience that day. I pull the fishing rod back as hard as I can, the line singing taut. Then the lure lets go of the snag. It's flying back, stings me in the ditch of the arm. I remember looking on the ground to see where it landed, to avoid stepping on it. And as I was looking down, I noticed it stuck in the ditch of my arm, a hook buried beyond the barb. After struggling, yanking at it, stretching out my skin unsuccessfully, with the barb doing its job, I said to myself out loud and panicked, "Pliers, yes, pliers." With the pair of needle nose, I pinched my skin hard, the skin right over where the barb would be, to try to pinch the barb down. I hear or feel a crunch. I slide the hook out, the barb all flattened. It's funny to me. All the fishing we did as kids, and something like this never happened to me or any of the cousins. Sometimes we slipped on wet rocks. Sometimes we walked out into a mussel patch by accident without sandals or water shoes and got cut. After thinking about this, I walk back over to the table. It is a too bright day, hard to see things easily, but I think I see an eagle above the trees some way across the lake, where the land sticks out and bends back and part of the lake is hidden. I feel peaceful for a moment. I hear a shout behind me. There he is. Let's see. Let's see here. Oh, I missed it. I missed one of my favorites somewhere back in here. Let me find it. It's an odd one, but where are you, Jerry Jeff? Tell me I didn't. Oh, wow. How far back did I miss this one? Okay, hold on. I got to squeeze this one in at least because this was another one in Noon that I really, really liked. And it's one that I still. Oh, there it is. Damn. Oh, it was back there. I did miss it. 103. Ah, there it is. Okay. I'm only going to read a couple more. We're at an hour now, a little over an hour. So, okay. But this one's really short, so I'm going to squeeze it in. This one's called Not Me, Jerry Jeff, or My Family. What are simple actions of daily life here? What's the normal thing to do? I think of looking busy and looking neighborly. I think of the deacon when I see him when he doesn't see. Shallowly polite, but it looks good. Most people seem to take well to it. Most people, but not me, or Jerry Jeff, or any of my family. I don't know why I like that one so much. I have so many different scenarios I've imposed on that little story over time. I can't say over the years, but over the year, since I last read it. That's one I think about a lot. Let's see. Okay, what are we gonna do here? Oh man, I wish I had time to read that one, but that's the long one. I'm not going to spoil that one. You'll need to read, but that's one of my favorite. It's one of the longer story. I think it's the longest story in here. I took my baby down to Brown's Lobster Pound. Oh, I love that one. All right, this will be the last one. This is the last story in the book. I read the first story in the book. We'll finish with the last story in the book. There's a lot in between I've skipped over. Once again, this is The Champ Is Here by Nathan Dragon. Y'all need to read it. Get it, read it, appreciate it. Appreciate work like this in its own fucking time, please. This is the last story. This is called But It Could Have Been Anywhere. One of those big picnic bench swings. I don't remember who I knew that would have had one in their yard, only that someone was always yelling at us to be careful. Just the other day, I spit out a real sugar version of grocery store brand Dr. Pepper. There are probably thousands of things or more that also taste like dust that aren't. I got a mouthful of it more than a few times. The mail comes every single day, and I look forward to it, except Sundays. I slide it out against the grit that somehow gets inside the mailbox. The wind, I bet. But I picture the mail person sprinkling it in. We'd call it supper because dinner sounded too formal. We all got good tips that week. Oops. Thinking, does anyone feel this way at all? I've walked on or under 3 natural bridges in the past 5 years. Fish tanks, parakeets, sunflower seeds, Vaseline, and bacitracin. Got a hook caught in the ditch of my arm once trying to get bees' line unstuck from the brush. I had to use pliers to crunch the barb in my skin down flat so I could slide it out. Strawberry-shaped hummingbird feeder, half-moon lake, pork chops and applesauce, poo-poo platters close to or in December, I guess, whenever we went into town. Over the years, there were several attempts to repurpose the TV room, but it was always called just that. Maybe I'll move into the old house one day. Blueberries at the lake, strawberries in the backyard, trundle beds in the garage. Threw the last cast out and caught a good old largemouth bass. A single unworn edge on the piece of green sea glass. Weather here like this reminds me of weather there like that, and getting in arguments, pushing X's into bug bites with dirt-clawed fingernails. There's always a place I don't want to leave. I don't know if C died or not, but sometimes I try to find out. Now, 20 to 30 minutes into the woods minimum for a walk with the dog. Back in Tucson, near Doolin Fruitvale, Stacy Toole on a sign heading west. The sun on the floor in the kitchen. The dog in the sun. Saddle up. Y'all, that was me reading from The Champ is Here by Nathan Dragon. I hope you enjoyed it. This is one of my favorite books published last year. One of my favorites that I'll have read this year. Yeah, it's just great all around. Once again, Get Noon Annual comes out every year about March. Nathan usually has a story or two or three or four in it. These are just the issues I have with me. There's more back there. But I just grabbed the most recent 5. Yeah, absolutely, Jeff. No. It's my pleasure. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be an author that a lot of people haven't already been exposed to, but also an author that a lot of people will end up loving. There's just, I don't know, it's just so distinctive and beguiling, and I could and I do just sit there and read them over and over again and wonder about them and ponder endlessly and admire the syntactical daring of it. And yeah, it's just terrific stuff. It's I love that writing like this is still being done and published. I hope it's finding its way to an audience. So if this gets even 1 or 2 more people to check it out and give it a shot, whatever, I feel like I have done my job. Yeah, I hope it's certainly worth my time. I certainly hope it's worth, or you think it's worth yours as well. But yeah, anyway, that's all I've got, y'all. Once again, The Champ is Here, Nathan Dragon, Cash for Cold Books. Look it up. I'm sure you can get it a variety of places, but it's readily available to order online if you need to. Yeah, that's about it. Read it. Read something. Enjoy the rest of your weekends, and I'll see you on the next one. Thanks again, y'all. And thanks again to Nathan for letting me do this. This was a pleasure. Seriously. Thank you so much. All right, y'all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.